bit off key and hoarse. So forgive me. I'm getting there. I'm a work in progress. You know how that is. Still working on me, right? Trying to live my best life, right? So I'm just doing what you are doing. So bear with me for just a minute as we come to you this morning on this very memorable occasion of 9/11. And we're remembering 9/11, and it's important for us to not forget. It's one of those things that's trending on Twitter and on other social media platforms. Never forget. And it's important not to forget because we can't forget the lives of those who died, all those people who lost their lives, and the first responders for whom this was their job, who ran right smack into the middle of danger to help folks and to bring survivors back. There's so many stories surrounding 9/11 that we can't forget. It was a time that captured the imagination of all of us, whether you were at work or whether you were in school or whether you were in middle school, elementary school, whether you were on college campus somewhere, or whether you were on your commute on your way to work. I was a stay at home mom at the time, and I was at home on my couch, and my stepdaughter called me to tell me that I should turn the TV on, and I would not believe what had just happened. And she said, I'm staying on the phone with you until you turn the TV on. And when I turned the TV on, tuned to Good Morning America, which was one of the weirdest things because it was like one of the first times that I didn't have morning TV on. I had just dropped my oldest daughter off at school, at elementary school. She was in like maybe the third grade, I think, second or third grade, and so or the fourth grade. And I think it was just the weirdest thing ever. And to see what was taking place in New York was so shocking. I didn't believe it. It was like many people, it was incredulous to us. So on this day, as we pause to remember 9/11, we're all going to pause at 9/11. Well, 9/11 is gone. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. What am I talking about? But as we remember 9/11, which is it's just a sobering reality that we live in a different day and time when these kinds of activities finally got to us here in America. It took many years for it to get to us, and it just never did, right? So I want to take time out to commemorate it, and I just wanted to honor those who fell, that they're not forgotten, and to honor the survivors, the first responders who ran into the scene of danger, knowing that there was some kind of danger there, but still persisted anyhow and tried to save as many lives as they could. So, shout out to them. It's a testament to the human ability to survive, and to see danger says something about your character. You see danger, and instead of running away from it, you run in to help. So, to all of you who are first responders, wherever you are in the country, wherever you are, and you're listening to this broadcast, know that the rest of us are grateful for your years of sacrifice, and your bravery and your courage speaks to all of us to remind us that there are good people in the world, and that bravery trumps all. Amen. Amen. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast today. And I wanted to thank you for listening yesterday. We had a discussion yesterday on suicide prevention. And so today I want to follow up with that to talk about our memories, what's in our database, the memories that are stored there, and how we can control our thoughts. I mean, there comes a time when you think that hope is not enough. So we have to go deep and dig deep into our own psyche to recreate a reality that we want to reflect so that we can become who we are destined and designed to be. I'm a firm believer that we are designed to be the greatest. I'm a firm believer that we are designed to be healed and to be whole, not just physically, but mentally. mental health is equally as important as physical health. We've seen over the last 4 decades that after 4 decades of putting people on antidepressants, people are still depressed. And that depression has now woven its way into our understanding of our human development, that depression also manifests in some physical ailments. The science of it is irrevocable. It's the science of it is undisputed that when you look at some of the physical illnesses and the direct correlation to a physical illness that comes from a mental space, a place in our minds where we did not and did not pay enough attention to what was going on with us mentally. And now we see the physical manifestation. It might be new to us here in the West. It might be new to us as people who live in the Western world. But I have found that it's not new to folks who live in the Eastern world. That kind of belief system has operated for thousands of years, where people believe that you have to be whole physically and mentally, not just physically. Here in the West, we have strived and striven to produce a superhuman who will not get sick, whose body will not break down, and who will not die, that will live in perpetual youth. That's an unachievable and dangerous way to look at the human body, because we're organic. We're designed to grow up, flourish, plateau, and then slowly break down to the point of extinction. It's part of the human life cycle. So it is unbelievable and irresponsible to encourage people to think that you can replace death and that you can replace the human body. There are certainly ways to perpetuate life. I think some people eventually change out their aging organs. If they're very wealthy, they get a younger heart, a younger kidneys and lungs. That just means your time hasn't come yet to die. That's all that it means. But it doesn't mean that you can regenerate and reincarnate to come back in a different body. That's your belief. That might be what you are led to think. But the reality is that if you want to, while you're still here in the body that you were born with and been given, that try to maintain, we should strive to have our bodies working in sync, where our minds and our bodies are completely at one and are healthy. So with this in mind, yesterday we talked about suicide prevention. And we now recognize that we need to be more aggressive about suicide and people who want to kill themselves. We have skirted around the topic. In fact, there was a school of thought once that said that we should skirt around the topic. We should not address it. We should not say that people want to kill themselves. And what we found was that wasn't helping anyone, was it? That did not help anyone. In fact, what we found is that people still went and killed themselves. So what we're finding now is that if someone expresses a desire or expresses in some form or another that they are thinking of killing themselves, we should say, do not do it. Ask the question. Yesterday, we discovered that we should question. Are you planning to kill yourself? Then we should persuade, right? Somebody's asking me a question, and then we should refer. Do you think R. Kelly is guilty? Heck yes. Yes, I think R. Kelly is guilty. I think his time has come for him to be held accountable for what he did. But I think he got away with it because the people around him wanted to make money off him. He's a victim of his own success because they knew what he was doing and they participated in what he was doing because it suited them, right? There's no solid evidence. How is there no solid evidence when the survivors speak? My ex-husband didn't. When the police showed up, my ex-husband denied hitting me. My daughter is there screaming that he hit me. I didn't always have visible bruises because when the police showed, very rarely did I have a black eye until the next day. But he hit me. So does that mean that he didn't? Why is there no solid evidence? Understand that a person under 17 does not have the free agency and the emotional maturity to make decisions for themselves. Somebody's asking if R. Kelly is guilty. Yeah, he is, right? Some of the parents are just as guilty as R. Kelly's. Why? Because some of the parents actually participated. They knew what they were doing and they profited. So they sold their children into sexual slavery. So some of the parents are just as guilty. Let me see what else you're saying. You're saying, so we accusing people on he say, she say now. Is it really he say, she say? If the person is underage and under the age of consent, they can't consent to having sex. It seems they're not accusing R. Kelly of having sex with 21-year-old women who are claiming after the fact. They are charging him for having sex with minors. The law is very clear. They're not going to charge him for something they can't prove. They're going to charge him for something they can't prove. See, once the feds get involved, it's a different game. Because the feds are not going to move forward on a case that they can't win. You see my point? So they're going to go for the law, right? But what about Ricky Ponting? I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. I don't know anything about Ricky Ponting, so you'll have to bring me up to speed. But to get back to what we're talking about, suicide prevention. We talked about questioning someone, referring them, persuade them not to kill themselves, and certainly refer them. So when you find out who's Ricky Ponting, tell me, right? So today I want to talk about our memories and how do we control our thoughts. And I wanted to do it in the context because someone asked me yesterday, when is hope not enough? And I chuckled at the thought because I said to myself, when is hope not enough? When do you ever give up on hope? Because the minute that you discharge the idea that there's nothing to live for and there is no hope, you've lost the battle for your mind. There's this trend on Twitter right now where some guy is saying that throw away all your antidepressant meds. It didn't work for him, and he can help you create reality. And people are going buck crazy, literally. But some interesting ideas came out of it. And one of them was, of course, most people are saying you can't just throw your meds away because, and to be honest with you, I don't believe you should throw your meds away for mental health. There are people who need meds. There are hormones that control our thoughts, that control our behavior, that control our perceptions. When those hormones are out of sync, guess what? That's when we go buck wild, right? So the medication is designed to replace and help those hormones when the hormone is not working effectively. So anybody who is on mental health meds, when the minute they start telling me that they feel better without their meds is the minute I'm saying, no, you need to take your meds, right? Because you need them to behave, right? So I wanted to talk about, well, when is hope not enough? When is hope not enough? Because I have found that in some of the situations that I found myself in, I found that I needed more and more hope. The minute I kept thinking, well, you have to create your own reality. Somebody said, well, if you have a dream, you have to go after it yourself. And if you don't go after your dream, then you won't make it. And I listened to them and I said, you have some merit there. And they were saying, let me tell you exactly what they're saying. I kid you not. People say the weirdest things, right? People will say anything at any time. I'm going to read this to you because it's true. Somebody said, when is hope not enough? When do you save your life? You should create your own reality. And I said, that's coming from a place of privilege. Many people in the world do not have the power to create a reality that exists in their mind. They don't have the power. Somebody who wants to live like a rock star, is that an easy thing to do? It's not easy for most of the population. It might be easy for some of you. You can go rent a stadium, pay for it. You can go rent the band, take the band and start talking, and you can pay a whole lot of people to show up. You can even pay off some parts of the media to say you're a rock star. But is that a reality that most people can achieve? No. I'm a firm believer that we can and we should control our thoughts. One of the things that happens in behavioral treatment, along with the meds, along with medication, is cognitive behavior. Cognitive behavior is just simply the process by which they teach you how to control your thoughts. Listen to me very carefully. If you do not control what you think, you're going to have a problem. It's just like if you're feeling overwhelmed. Well, he doesn't love me. Well, she doesn't love me. They don't want me at work. Well, I don't matter to anybody. Well, just listen to what you're saying. If you don't stop that and control those negative thought patterns, then you're going to find yourself in negativity, surrounded by negativity, with negative people, and everything that you see is going to be negative, negative, until you finally come to the conclusion that the only thing you can do is kill yourself. Now, the opposite of that is hope. Hope that, okay, so this guy may not like me. Okay, well, someone else will. This girl did not like me, but someone else will. This job did not like me, didn't suit my skills, didn't suit my taste, but this job will do. Do you see what I'm saying? So we've got to control our thoughts. The other thing I want to bring up is control our minds. Ladies and gentlemen, part of the problem with people who are mentally unwell is that they have what I call runaway thoughts. One thought just segues into the other, and before you know it, this one negative thought has mushroomed into this big mushroom cloud of negative thoughts, and everybody and everything is just coming at them. You have to control your mind, right? You also have to control and de-escalate. You have to de-escalate. Say de-escalate. Anybody knows how to do that? One of the things that happens is when something bad happens, there's a thing called anxiety. Anybody knows what anxiety is or familiar with anxiety? We all have been exposed to anxiety. We all have a little issue here or there with anxiety where we become anxious about something. And what happens is when we become anxious about it is, guess why? The primary root cause of anxiety is what? Guess what? Lack of control. You have no control over the outcome of the situation. So you become anxious about it. The greater the need for that situation to go your way is the greater your desire to control the outcome. The more you recognize that you don't have the power over the outcome or control over the outcome, is the more you become anxious about it. And your anxiety continues and builds and builds. Then you start attaching everything else to this thing. Let's say that you just graduated from college and you need a job. And if you don't get a job, you can't work. And if you don't work, you won't get paid. And if you won't get paid, you can't move out of your parents' house. You can't move into the next thing. Nobody will want you. You see how it starts? Nobody's going to find you attractive because you don't work, you don't have income. You see how one negative thought spins into the other? That is what we refer to as a so now, that is what you need to control that thought. You have to learn to put things into context. And so many times we place unrealistic, unachievable expectations on ourselves. And when the deadline passes, that's why you have to be careful about deadlines. If you're going to set a deadline to something, set it to something that you at least have the control over. If you have a project to do, set a deadline to it. That's something you have the power to control. But if you tell yourself, I must get a job by the 15th of September, do you have control over that? No. So what you've done is place an unrealistic, unachievable expectation on an outcome you have no control over and created an anxiety about it that is now spiraled into negative thoughts. You've got to control your thoughts. And now is the time when you are going to turn around and say to me that hope is not enough. But guess what? You're not looking contextually. You have created an alternate reality that does not even exist. You're going to tell yourself that you must have a job by September 15th, but you don't have any control over that. You don't have any. Do you understand what I'm saying? So all these people are pontificating and postulating, and nobody is looking at the true facts. The fact of the matter is you really don't have any control over how someone feels about you. As much as you think you are, you could be the greatest thing ever. You don't have any control over how someone feels about you. So what are you going to do? Cry and kill yourself when they reject you? No, because you don't have any control. So that's placing an unrealistic expectation on an outcome that you have no control over. Do you have any control over when you die? No. Do you? You really think you do because you're going to kill yourself. That's you choosing to do something negative to yourself. Why is it negative? Because it does not solve the issue. When you die, the situations that made you feel like you should kill yourself, they still exist. You're just not there to deal with them. And if that is your reality and that is what you're saying to yourself, then you need help. We need to bring you back. We need to control your thoughts and go back to the root cause and excavate the situation that caused you to think like that in the first place. I find that when I start talking to people like this, people suddenly just back up because now they begin to realize that, oh my God, I thought about this. I did this to myself. And I don't want to talk about this anymore. Why? Because now you're confronted with this version of yourself. You now see that it was ridiculous of you to have thought this negative way before. A lot of us go on social media and you get into these online portals that dispense advice and they tell you all kinds of crazy stuff. And they also give you a false sense of expectation as well. They tell you that you should be, by the time you're 25, you should do this. By the time you're 30, you should do this. By the time you're 35. And they don't take into consideration your own perspective and your own unique situation. So here you are telling yourself that I should be this, I should be that. And if it doesn't happen, then you're a loser. And if it doesn't happen, then something is wrong with you. And so you sit there imbibing all that negativity. And before you know it, you can't even rise up out of it yourself. Incredible. The mind, listen to me very carefully. The body goes where the mind goes. So if you start telling yourself that nobody wants you, before long, you're going to be sitting in your couch, stuffing your face and eating so much that you will not even want yourself. Before long, you start giving up on yourself. You stop taking care of yourself. Listen, every morning when you get up and look in the mirror, you ought to smile with yourself. And if you're standing before your mirror criticizing, slicing up, well, we all do that because, it's self-evaluation, and a certain amount of self-evaluation is necessary for the maintenance of your healthy self-esteem. But when you start segmenting parts of your body based on someone else's criteria, then you've got to start thinking, is this about me or about them? But you have to start thinking, is this healthy for me as well? Having a healthy sense of self. That doesn't mean that it's excusable for you to go out and eat and stuff your face, because you're going to have a problem later on. Trust me, it's going to add up. It may not add up now, but it will add up later on. And you're going to regret it, right? But by the same token, you should also have a healthy ounce of self-containment, self-respect, and appreciation, and have a healthy expectation of yourself, hey, right, of what you want to overcome. Listen, if you don't control your mind, then who is? That's a question I want to ask. Do you really want to give up control of your mind to someone else? Or do you want to give up control of your mind to you? You have to control your thoughts. The minute a negative thought comes, rebuke it and set it down. What's a negative thought? A thought that tells you everything is hopeless. How are you? Good morning. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much, right? A negative thought is something that comes to tell you that everything is hopeless. A negative thought is one of those that tell you you don't need your meds for mental health. Don't listen to that one. Do I like ice cream? Yeah. Right? Do you see what I mean? A negative thought is one that tells you you will never get through this, you will never overcome. A negative thought is the one that sends you to sit in a closet and hide because you think you're not pretty, you're not slim, you're not beautiful enough. And have you ever watched My 600-Pound Life? You know how she got there? A negative thought. Can't even come out of the house. Years ago when I worked in healthcare, the nurses went out to, we had a home visiting service, a community-based healthcare agency. And the nurse went out to visit with a patient who was young. She was still married. She had young children. She hadn't come out of her apartment in 4 years. She weighed over 400 pounds. Her skin fell off like scales. Certain parts of her body had not been washed. They had to lift her, 2 people had to lift her leg to get to her private parts. And she still had periods and still went to the bathroom and stuff like that. She hadn't come out. It all started with a negative thought. She just sat there and ate herself into oblivion. She fell into what we call depression. Mind-blowing, isn't it? Your mind controls your body and controls you. You've got to get control of your mind. You have to control the thoughts that come to your mind. Some of these folks who are crazy, have you ever seen their mugshots? I mean, they go kill people, and then when you take the mugshot, they look as if they're spaced out. Yeah, they are. Something happened to them. Their mind just lost control. Right? And it is not a good thing if we don't control our mind, and if we don't control our thoughts, how else then are you going to be able to make it? So I'm saying to you today, we're about to wrap up on one of these platforms, right? I'm saying to you today that we all do, we have to sit down and have this frank conversation with ourselves. We need to ask ourselves, how does it matter how much control I have? Because for some of us, it matters. If you start examining where that seat of control, it's going to take you to a place where something had happened, where you felt powerless. This is why you have to go to therapy. This is why cognitive behavior helps. It's not reenacting the trauma. That's a whole other segment to it. It's simply identifying how you felt about what happened to you and dealing with it. You can't just take your meds and throw them away. The meds are helping your hormones recover until you are able to control your mind. I kid you not, where the mind goes, the body follows. Be very careful what you think about yourself. Be very careful. Watch your thoughts. Your thoughts are important because your body will do what your mind tells it to do. Be very careful about what you think about yourself. It's important because how you think about yourself frames you and frames your world and your perception of the world that you live in. Control your thoughts and you control your life. This is Down to Earth with Harriet Kamek. Join us again and we will talk some more about this. Do you see what I'm saying? So you have to be very careful about what you think. You have to be careful about your thoughts. Most of us just get on a rampage. You just lay in bed at night. Be careful about that. Learn to segue your thoughts, organize your thoughts. Find out how you think about stuff. Because what you're going to find is that your perception of something is going to be vastly different than other people's perception of it. It's just like the people who are mass shooters. They're the only people who think like that about everything. The rest of us don't. Have you noticed? So they are off. Some of them, I believe, use mass shooting as a way to communicate their rage because they know that sociologists are going to say, well, they're mentally off. Why? Because what we're trying to say is you got to be mental and sick to want to bring hurt to a large group of people. And to some extent, they are right. Because you've got to be in a place where you feel you're really sad to do that. But by the same token, though, what happened to those people that caused them to think like this? They had thoughts that were never controlled, thoughts that no one addressed, thoughts that people said, well, that's just the way he is. In some cultures and in some, it's customary, especially in the Black community, for Black people not to go to therapy. And we all have a cousin, auntie, uncle who was always talking to themselves. And we're like, oh, that's just how he or she is. That was a sign of mental illness. Someone who was always in depression, who could never cope and who was drunk 24/7, right? And we just said, well, they've been a drunk since I was a kid. Well, what we failed to understand is that they had issues coping with life. So they drank as a way of controlling the outcome. All we are fighting for, all of us, is to control our outcome. We all want to have a say in the outcome of our dreams, in the outcome of our activities, in the outcome of our lives. We're just striving to have more control over it so that it does not harm us, or it doesn't go to a place that is not going to be beneficial to us. But the degree to which we seek to have control and how we react when we don't have that control, well, that's what separates the mental from the unwell. And that, my friends, is what we're referring to when we say when hope is not enough. Hope is always enough. Hope replaces darkness. Hope replaces depression. I've been in a place where I have felt complete hopelessness. I've been in a place where I felt completely like it was never going to work. When my mother died is the most recent experience I can think of, where I didn't want to get up. I couldn't believe that she had left. I couldn't believe I wouldn't have her to just call her mouth off and just say, Mom, you wouldn't believe this. You know how we all have that person, that mom. I don't know how moms are made. They just seem to absorb a lot of stuff, right? Because I found out when she died that everybody around her had that same experience with her. You could just call and say, Mom, right? And I kid you not, there were days when I felt completely hopeless. It took people around me to draw my attention. But you know how it started? Me. Your healing starts with you. I had to make up in my mind whether I was going to continue to think hopeless about the situation or whether I was going to get up and live. Was I going to continue to think that it's something I wanted to control the outcome, but I couldn't stop her from dying? Right? And I wanted to control it to my benefit because I wouldn't be sad if she died, but I had no control over it. I had to accept that I had no control over it, which minimized my anxiety significantly. The second thing I had to do was I had to do what? Get up. I had to tell myself present and the future. I have to get up and live it. This is why I say to everybody, you must have a design for your life. From your earliest awareness, whether you're listening to this broadcast, you're 10 years old, 12, 16, then you're in a good place because you're starting off. If you're in college, or if you're not in college, or if you are just starting out and just discovering, you gotta have a plan for your life. One of the things that helped me to cope and to get up with the hopelessness I felt about my mother's death was I had a future. I had already been a speaker and an author and a talk show host. I had already done those things. I had already had a plan for my life. I wanted to set up a shelter for human trafficking victims. I, in fact, had started working on getting the physical shelter ready. So when she died, which was during the process, I already had my plans for my life. I already knew what I wanted to do with my life. So I had hope now. My hope was now to get up and fulfill that. It is very important, even as parents, that we teach our children to have a plan for their future. You can't just send your children to school. It's not enough to just tell them, go to college. You have to tell them, go to college and be somebody. Go be an engineer. Go be a computer scientist. Go be a doctor, a lawyer, an anesthesiologist, a prosecutor, whatever you want to call it. Give your children something tangible that they must plan around. That's going to help them survive the trials and tribulations that come with life. So often people are not able to cope with life because what? We're not teaching them life skills. We're not teaching them how to cope. We're not telling them the truth about life. We don't tell them that every day is not going to be sunny. We don't tell them there are rainy days, cloudy days, days when you skate on thin ice. We don't tell them that. So they have unnatural and unrealistic expectations about the outcomes of situations. And so they end up feeling overwhelmed more quickly than the rest of us did. And they end up feeling as if things are out of control. And when you start listening to them, you are able to put it into perspective. Why? Because we live in a society that tells us that every day is going to be a Sunday, that every day is just going to be hunky-dory and it's all going to be good and fluffy and the clouds are always fluffy and you're just skating on a cloud. Life is not like that. Life is filled with stress and trials and days when you feel like giving up and days when you simply can't be bothered. That's life. But you still have hope. You got to get up. You have to get up. You have to tell yourself, if you know somebody right now who is struggling to deal with life, you have to question why. You have to ask them, why are you struggling? And you have to persuade them to get up. You have to convince them that it is imperative that they get out of it. If you know somebody right now whose boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or spouse left them, go talk to them right now. Tell them, get up out of that stuff. Life is for the living. If you are walking and breathing, life is for the living. Get up and live. And then tell them, go talk to someone about how you feel about that. Because so often when these things come, they're personal, especially in intimate relationships like marriages and intimate committed relationships. It's personal. Let's just be clear about it. It's almost as if the person rejected you. They're saying you're not pretty enough, not attractive enough, not good looking enough, not sexy enough, whatever. And you internalize that when it could be that, but that's just one opinion. Not saying you should go sample everybody else to find out if it's true, but at the same time, that's just one person's negative opinion of you. You see my point? So what do? You get up and you keep on keeping on. Get your mind together. Control your thoughts. Every time that negative thought comes to you that they rejected you, control it. Whether that rejection came from a job loss, you're not smart enough. Oh, but you say you're an engineer and you went to school and you got your degree in engineer, but you're not smart enough because you couldn't execute that task. Nix that idea right away. That's just one group of people's opinion. Form your own engineer consulting agency and keep it moving. You can do it right from home. Submit your bids and requests and I will answer them. Here's my fee. Do you see how the digital world is designed to set us all free from negativity and negative thoughts? Right? This is what some people mean when they say create your reality. What is your reality? Is your reality continually defined by how people think about you? Or is it defined by a correct perception of the situation? Come on now, help me out here. Talk to me, right? That's got to be the way that you think. So control your thoughts. Control your mind, right? Control your reality. What is your outcome? What does a likely outcome look like for you? What is it? So there's so many people choosing to kill themselves that we have an epidemic of suicide that is unprecedented, especially troubling to me is because it's amongst young people. Dang, when I was your age, I was living it up. Living just a little, loving just a little. I was living. What are y'all doing? You graduated college with a degree, and you're sitting over here getting depressed because one group of people or two groups of people of the 7.3 billion people on the planet. Are you nuts? Go get a website up. You can do a trial website. Sell your services. Change the way you look. You don't like your hair? Okay, go get some hair. Get hair extensions. Color your hair. You don't like the way you look? Put some makeup on. You think you're too fat? Lose the weight. You think you're too skinny? Gain a little weight. You're too dark? Lighten up. You're too light? Get a tan. And people even go and wear colored contacts, for crying out loud. That's how extreme some people take it. As for me in my house, I'm like, this is me all day. You like it or you don't like it, matters not to me. It's how I feel about myself. And then you have to ask yourself, where did that come from? Listen, we have all had experiences. When I was growing up is tough for anybody. When I was growing up, they used to laugh and make fun of me. I kid you not. They used to make fun of my complexion. Serious thing. Seriously. They used to laugh and make fun of my complexion. They told me that I wasn't white enough to go to England. So if there was a war, I wasn't white enough to go to England. And I wasn't black enough to go to Africa. I kid you not. And they would drop me in the middle of the Atlantic and sharks would eat me. People used to walk around me when it rained and told me that I smell like white people, that white people smell raw when it rains. One of my cousins used to call me a gray cat, that I was so light compared to her that I looked gray. I kid you not. I barely talked to her today. She knows why. Right? And she probably listens to this. I hope she feels some sense of shame, or should I say accountability to her actions. People are mean. You say mean things to people without thinking of the consequences of their actions. Come on, right? You see what I'm saying? So when you put it into context, how did those things impact the individual? Well, I decided I was going to prove them all wrong. One girl told me that my forehead was so high, I was too intelligent and all my brains were in my forehead. God, did I prove her right? Right? Another girl said that because I used to have a correct posture, because when I was growing up, there was someone in my growing up years who, if I slouched, like you see how I slouch today? Gosh, I can do that now, right? When I was growing up, I had to sit with my shoulders back and walk straight all the time with my head held high. You know what one girl at school used to laugh at me and say? That I looked like Queen Elizabeth when I sat up. Man, did I wear that title? All I needed was the physical crown on my head. I kid you not. To this day. Every time I find myself slouching, I sit up and remind myself. How did that impact me? I decided I was going to prove them all wrong. I went out and I made sure I was well read, so I could answer all their questions. I could help them with their English homework and so on. Because I was smart. Cheers to all the geeks and all the nerds and all the smart people out there. Cheers to all of you. Any survivors out there? Any overcomers out there? Cheers to all of you who have been through some stuff that you had to survive. Right? Because the sum total of our experiences defined us and determined whether we were going to survive or not. So cheers to all of us who survived. In other words, what I'm saying is we've all had issues. Say that. We all have issues. We all have had something that we have been hurt that has caused us to become what we are now. When we have slid down this scale, because it's a lifetime. I found with people that it's a lifetime of trauma. They didn't just get here like one day, one bad thing happened. No, it's been happening for a while, and their ability to cope has been lessened and negated. last year, a woman called me because she was homeless. And they called me, so they referred her to me so I could direct her to facilities. And in talking to her, now the persons whom she called, they just thought she had had a bad situation happen and she needed help to be restored immediately. And when she called me, I got a whole different cleaning. You know what? At 5 seconds into her, I said, "When was the last time you took your meds?" And she backtracked. I haven't. I said, "That's the first place we need to start." Right there, I could tell. The way she was talking, when I referred her to services, I knew right away I was dealing with someone who needed medication to control her hormones. Her perceptions of things was way off. And for years, she had gotten away with it. And so she was functioning through different personalities. So she would slide into a different personality for each situation. And people didn't even know what they were dealing with. Do you see what I'm saying? Multiple personalities. So people do need their medication. And for those folks, they can't control their thoughts. They can't control their mind. And they definitely should not have control over their reality, because their reality is based on false information, false perceptions. Those are the persons whom we should all be watchful for. Those are the persons who need to be referred to someone else. But for the rest of us who have had 1 or 2 or 3 traumatic situations happen, you need to sit down and have a talk. This is why I say, go talk to someone. Please start there. Start there. You will know whether you need to continue, but start talking. Go talk to someone. Right? Right? Call the Lifeline number, 800-273-8255. That's the Lifeline. Call it right now. Go talk to someone. Look, it's like this. There are no guarantees in life. Okay? What we have is hope for a better future, a better day for the rest of the day, a better tomorrow. I started out my day yesterday incredibly optimistic that I would have a good day. It's a good thing I did. Because, dude, let me tell you. Oh, my gosh. My day started at 3:25 a.m. I couldn't go back to sleep. Then it just continued. I never stopped all day. My day ended at 10:30 p.m. last night. That's when I finally stumbled into the shower. I went to lay down and I was on the phone with a friend. And I know when she's venting, so I just let her vent. She's just getting it all out. She's venting. Let it all out. And I took it. Then I said, "I love you. We'll talk tomorrow." My day did not end. Do you see what I'm saying? By the end of the day, I was like, oh, if I could just pull the covers over and get some sleep, I'd be good. Right? So we all have days like that. So you're tired. Some of you are just overwhelmed with life. You've been trying for so hard. You know what's happening to you? Your coping mechanisms are getting low. You need help. You need to talk to someone. You need to unpack it, unburden yourself. It's not that you don't know hope. You know it's there, but you're too tired to reach for it. For some of us, you even tell yourself that hope is expensive. Why hope? It will never change. Baby, I've been there. I lived it. 3 years I lived in through some of the darkest moments of my life for 3 continuous years. It culminated in my mother's death. Don't tell me that there isn't hope. I went through living hell. I thought they were going to, at one point I was like, dang, I might as well give up. Looks like they're going to, if you don't do something, I finally said, God, you're there. I know you are. You better do something because this is not looking good right now. I gave up. You cannot give up. What I thought I gave up was expressing my frustration at the fact that the situation would not change. So it diminished my hope. But I found that there was something inside of me that would not quit. It kind of latched on to the idea that things would change and I wouldn't give up. And I didn't know it was in me until I started talking to other people. Suddenly, people were coming to me who were in incredibly hopeless situations. And I found that I was telling them how to get out of it, what to do, how to think. You have to feed your mind and feed your spirit with the right stuff. Think on these things. Think positive thoughts. Every day of your life, spend some time. You need 20 minutes to spend your time every day thinking positive stuff about yourself. You're going to need it. Because when stuff comes at you, believe me, it comes like a speeding NASA rocket. You need positive ideas. Fill yourself up with positivity and with stuff that there is hope. Never quit and give up on hope. When they come and say, when hope is not enough, you say, when is that? Say, when is that? You make sure that you follow these things, these 3 C's I just told you. Control your thoughts, control your mind, control your reality. And then once you start thinking like that, you've just given yourself hope. That is hope. Because half the things that we fear never happen. Half the things we think are going to happen never happen. Did you know that? So what are we spending our time focusing on? All these negative scenarios? Kill it. Focus on good stuff. Only good things are going to happen to me. And even if you never get to climb Mount Himalayas, even if you never go to Paris, then that's okay too. But it gives you some juice to live. It keeps you young and effervescent. Instead of looking in the mirror and listening to the diatribe that tells you that it's over, that tells you that you will never make it, that you're old and wrinkly. Well, go get some Vaseline and start keeping your face and washing your face every day and put some Vaseline on it and see how quickly that stuff goes away. Start smiling more. When you start thinking better about your circumstances and yourself, you start sitting up straighter. You start looking at yourself in a different way. You start designing and living out the reality you've just created. Hello? Got that? Loud and clear. You got to have hope. You got to think different. Control your anxiety. So many times we let things run away until anxiety overcomes us and your hands get clammy because you fear that you don't have any control over the outcome. Why is it necessary to have control over the outcome? Because when I was a kid, because when I was 16, because when I was 18, because I was married. That is why. So find out your why. And then you will find that it gets better to control your thoughts. You see, once you identify, ladies and gentlemen, you can't conquer what you haven't identified. You got to identify it. Once you identify it, you've conquered it. Because now you can replace it with a positive thought that will give you a positive outcome. Yeah? And that's why they pay me the big bucks. So go to my website, HarrietKimmick.com, and invite me to speak at your next event. Invite me to come and talk you off your cliff, talk you off your ledge. Yeah? Right? So if this message has been a blessing to you, go to my website, HarrietKimmick.com. Also go to the ExodusFoundation.com. If you live in the Metro Detroit area, on September 24th at 6 p.m., I will be at the Homewood Suites in Brighton, Michigan. Come and listen to us as we have a conversation about immigration. Come and listen to us as we talk about immigration and the intersections that occur around immigration, because often we think it's cut. It's not a clear-cut situation often, right? So come and listen to us. We have something to say, and you want to hear this conversation, right? So go to my website, HarrietKimmick.com, for more information on how you can get these and other resources and help us as we help victims of human sex trafficking. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure to be here with you this morning. Enjoy your day. Thanks, everybody. Be blessed. Be blessed. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody.